Once upon a time, in a bustling police training facility on the outskirts of a large American city, a young German shepherd named Rocky was filled with boundless energy and a heart brimming with goodwill. Day after day, the trainers lined up their newest recruits, dogs destined for police work, and Rocky was among them. Though smaller than some of the others, he had a sparkle in his eye that hinted at big dreams. For Rocky, becoming a K-9 officer wasn't just a job. It was the ultimate calling, a chance to serve and protect alongside humans he admired. From the moment he arrived, everyone noticed his infectiously cheerful disposition. Unlike his more serious K-9 classmates, Rocky's tail never seemed to stop wagging. When the lead instructor, Officer Parker, commanded, "Stay," Rocky tried so hard to remain still, but inevitably he'd shuffle forward, seeking a pat on the head or a playful glance. His classmates might hold their ground, eyes laser-focused, but Rocky couldn't resist the urge to check on the humans around him, making sure no one was sad or lonely. At first, this behavior elicited laughter. "He's got spirit, that one," Officer Parker would say, ruffling Rocky's ears. Rocky would respond with a broad, doggish grin, confident he was doing something right. But as training advanced, the tasks grew more rigorous and demanded unwavering discipline. The other dogs excelled in complex maneuvers, silent takedowns, and heightened obedience. Meanwhile, Rocky's unwavering friendliness, his instinct to greet or comfort rather than apprehend, became a liability. Instead of tracking a hidden decoy with menacing focus, he'd stop mid-search if he thought another officer needed cheering up. Whispers began to circulate. During water breaks, some trainers would shake their heads, muttering that Rocky lacked the necessary seriousness. "Too soft," one declared. "Too easily distracted," said another. The phrase, "he's not cut out for police work," started to echo around the yard. Rocky, for all his intelligence, understood only the emotional undercurrent. He felt the trainers' exasperation, saw them frowning whenever he tried to turn an obedience drill into a game of chase. Still, he persevered. Day after day, he lined up with the others, tail wagging, eyes bright. If the instructor told him to lie down, he did, but then he'd roll over for a belly rub. If told to bark on command, he gave a boisterous woof but followed it with a playful prance. Each time he messed up, a shadow of doubt flickered in his gaze, but it never dimmed his fundamental optimism. As if to say, "I just want to help. Am I not helping?" One late afternoon, after a long day of training, Officer Parker quietly pulled Rocky aside. Though not literally speaking dog language, there was a heaviness in the man's posture. "Sorry, boy," he murmured, removing the special trainee collar from Rocky's neck and replacing it with a plain one. "You're just too friendly for this line of work." The finality in his tone stung even if Rocky couldn't fully parse the words. The next morning, Rocky was led out of the training compound. Other dogs who had graduated with flying colors barked in farewell, but there was no official ceremony for Rocky. He was simply escorted through a side gate to a waiting van, Officer Parker's hand patting him one last time. "You'll find your place, buddy," the man whispered, voice tinged with regret. Rocky's eyes roamed around, searching for reassurance. He'd done everything he could to please them, yet here he was, gently ushered away. Confusion rippled through his mind, but a glimmer of hope remained. Even as the gate clanged shut, his tail gave a timid wag, as if refusing to believe that kindness was a flaw. By midday, the van pulled up to a modest animal shelter in a different part of town. The staff there was kind yet busy. They had rows of kennels filled with dogs of all sizes and stories. Some had been lost, others abandoned, and a few were surrendered by owners who could no longer care for them. Into this sea of uncertain fates stepped Rocky, an ex-K-9 recruit with a bright temperament that just didn't align with the force's needs. As one shelter volunteer, Laura, guided him to a kennel, she noticed his wagging tail. "You're a sweet one, aren't you?" she remarked, giving him a small scratch behind the ears. Rocky leaned into her touch, grateful, though the sting of dismissal lingered. His faith in human kindness remained unbroken. For the next few days, Rocky settled into the shelter's routine, quietly observing the comings and goings of staff and potential adopters. He didn't bark incessantly or scramble at the kennel bars for attention. Instead, he'd simply sit, tail swishing gently, eyes following each passerby with an affectionate gaze. He didn't realize it yet, but the world had not given up on him. In fact, destiny was about to rearrange his path in an unimaginable way, leading him toward a man named Keanu Reeves, and an entirely new purpose he could never have foreseen. Life in the shelter might have been bleak for many dogs, but Rocky maintained a quiet cheerfulness. Each morning started with the staff's routine: distributing food, cleaning kennels, giving quick pats to calm the more anxious animals. The daily hum of barking surrounded him, but Rocky rarely joined the commotion. He would sit with a calm posture, tail thumping once in a while, as if offering reassurance to his noisier neighbors. A week passed, and few visitors showed interest in him. People gravitated toward puppies or more obviously protective dogs. They'd glance into Rocky's kennel, see his bright eyes and wagging tail, but move on, labeling him just a friendly mutt. Staff like Laura tried pointing out his intelligence and mild temperament, yet potential adopters wanted guard dogs or showy appearances. Rocky remained overlooked, lingering behind the metal bars, patiently awaiting an owner who might see him for who he was. Meanwhile, in a world far removed from shelter routines, Keanu Reeves was in the midst of a creative lull. Known for his roles in iconic films, he had found himself recently craving a different kind of companionship. He'd always loved dogs. Some of his past roles even featured them, but he had none at present. A friend suggested he visit a local shelter event, part of a charity initiative for homeless animals. So one Saturday afternoon, Keanu slipped on a baseball cap and sunglasses, hoping to avoid too much public fuss, and made his way to the city's community park. Rows of temporary kennel setups lined the grass, each showcasing adoptable dogs. Families and individuals strolled from booth to booth, learning about the animals. A group of volunteers recognized him, but politely gave him space. He nodded in gratitude. The last thing he wanted was to overshadow the dogs who needed attention. Wandering among the enclosures, he felt the pang of empathy for these creatures, each with a story of heartbreak. One particular booth caught his eye. The sign read, "Second Chance Rescue." Beneath it, a volunteer named Megan was demonstrating a few dogs' tricks. On a whim, Keanu paused to watch. He saw an exuberant boxer jump for a treat, a timid beagle pressing itself against the fence. Then, in the corner, sat a German shepherd with a somewhat dignified posture, tail wagging calmly, ears perked, looking right at him. Keanu's curiosity piqued. Approaching, he saw the dog's name, Rocky. He crouched down. "Hey, buddy," he said quietly. The shepherd got up, padded to the fence, and gently licked Keanu's offered hand. There was no frantic bark or wild leap, just a controlled, friendly greeting. Something in Rocky's eyes struck Keanu as remarkably gentle, almost grateful. Megan, noticing the interaction, stepped forward. "This is Rocky," she explained. "He's a special case. He actually washed out of a police K-9 program for being too friendly." She laughed softly. "He loves people a bit too much to be a takedown dog, apparently." Keanu raised an eyebrow, a half-smile forming. "Too friendly? That's a first." He petted the dog's head through the fence. "He does have that aura, doesn't he?" Megan nodded. "We think he's fantastic, but it's been hard placing him because folks either want a fierce guard dog or a tiny lap pup. Rocky's in between, a big, sweet lug without aggression." The more Keanu listened, the more intrigued he became. He asked to take Rocky for a quick walk around the park. Megan, delighted, handed him the leash. As they strolled along the grassy field, families recognized Keanu, but he politely waved them off, focusing on Rocky. The dog trotted alongside him, occasionally glancing up as if to check if he was doing the right thing. At one point, a small child ran by, dropping a stuffed toy. Rocky spontaneously fetched it, returning it to the child with a gentle mouth. The child giggled, and Keanu's heart melted. By the end of that walk, the synergy felt palpable. Something about Rocky's earnest warmth resonated with Keanu, stirring an unexplainable sense of kinship. After returning to the booth, Keanu found Megan, smile broadening on his face. "All right," he said, stroking Rocky's ears. "What do I need to do to adopt him?" The volunteer blinked, momentarily starstruck. "Oh, that's wonderful. We can fill out the forms inside the shelter. We'll do a quick home check, the usual procedure. But I doubt we'll have any reason to refuse," she teased, half laughing. Keanu nodded, not at all bothered by the formalities. "I'll follow whatever you need. Let's make it happen." Leaning down to Rocky's level, he murmured, "We're going to be roommates, buddy. You okay with that?" In response, the dog lifted a paw as if in a handshake, tail wagging so hard his back end swayed. Laughter bubbled up from onlookers, capturing the moment as pure magic. And so, a few days later, the official paperwork was done. Rocky stepped through the doors of a quiet, comfortable house, a far cry from the kennel he'd known. Inside was spacious but cozy, filled with the subtle presence of a man who valued peace. For Rocky, it felt like the end of one journey and the start of something thrillingly unknown. He had no idea that beyond these walls lay film sets, bright lights, and an entirely different brand of excitement than the training yard ever offered. All he sensed was that his new human beamed kindness. For a dog who craved connection over discipline, it was more than enough. When Rocky first arrived in Keanu Reeves's home, he tiptoed around like a guest unsure of his welcome. The open floor layout gave him plenty of space to explore. He sniffed table legs, trotted across soft rugs, and peered at framed movie posters. Keanu followed, letting him roam freely. "Make yourself at home," Keanu quipped, though he realized it sounded silly, like giving a dog permission. Yet, he sensed Rocky needed reassurance that this was truly his place now. It didn't take long for the ex-K9 trainee's sunny personality to shine through. He greeted every friend of Keanu's who dropped by, tail wagging, nose booping ankles. He formed an immediate fan club among them. "This is the dog that was deemed too friendly?" marveled Malcolm, an old buddy from Keanu's earliest acting gigs. "He's absolutely adorable." Keanu chuckled. Apparently, wanting to cuddle criminals isn't an asset in law enforcement. The remark brought laughter, but behind it lay gratitude for the dog's second chance at happiness. Days bled into weeks. The two developed a casual routine. Keanu rose early, cooked a quick breakfast, gave Rocky his morning kibble, then they strolled around the quiet neighborhood before the city's hustle awakened. On these walks, neighbors often recognized Keanu but seemed more enchanted by Rocky's lovable presence. The dog sniffed every mailbox, greeted passers-by with gentle curiosity, and occasionally tried to chase a butterfly or two. Inside the house, Rocky discovered his favorite spot on a cushioned window seat, where sunlight pooled in mid-morning. He dozed contentedly, muzzle draped over the edge. From his vantage, he watched squirrels scampering in the yard. Meanwhile, Keanu navigated phone calls, scripts, and sporadic errands. Yet no matter how busy the day, a part of his mind remained aware of Rocky's presence, a comforting anchor in an otherwise unpredictable schedule. One afternoon, a film director friend, Clara, stopped by to discuss a potential cameo idea for an upcoming project. As she spread out concept sketches on the dining table, Rocky ambled over, sniffing them gently. She stifled a laugh, rummaging her bag for treats. "Ever consider letting your dog do a cameo?" she teased, handing Rocky a small biscuit. "He's so calm. Might be a good fit for on-camera time if you ever do a dog-friendly scene." Keanu grinned, watching the shepherd munch contentedly. "Never say never," he replied. He wasn't sure how serious she was, but the notion tickled him. The idea of Rocky stepping onto a film set conjured comedic visions of the dog licking every crew member instead of hitting marks or following film commands. Then again, Rocky was more disciplined than one might guess, just not in the harsh, regimented way required by police K9 standards. A few weeks later, a surprising call arrived from the production team of an upcoming comedic drama. They'd heard from Clara that Keanu owned a friendly German shepherd, exactly the type needed for a short cameo. The part required no stunts or intense action, just a dog to appear in a handful of scenes portraying a companion to the main character. "We'd be thrilled if you considered letting us feature your dog," the production manager said. It's a small role, but an important emotional note. Keanu blinked at his phone, excitement stirring. I'll have to see how he does around a busy set. Let me think about it. He couldn't decide if it was wise to thrust Rocky into that environment, but the offers from well-intentioned folks kept surfacing. Maybe the dog's warmth had more potential than he'd realized. He decided to do a short set visit as a test. Arriving on an off day, the space was calmer, with minimal crew. As soon as Rocky stepped out of the car, he sniffed the air, ears pricked. On the walk toward the stage door, gaffers and costume assistants paused to greet him, charmed by his gentle approach. The dog wagged his tail in a wide arc, relishing each pat, letting them ruffle his fur. Inside the partially constructed set, a swirl of stage lights, half-finished backdrops, and the faint hum of generators provided an unexpected environment. Rocky looked around, uncertain at first. But with Keanu's steady hand on the leash, he advanced. A random noise, a clank of metal pipes, startled him, but he quickly recovered, gazing at Keanu as if seeking confirmation that everything was okay. Reassured, he pressed on, tail never fully stopping its rhythmic sway. Crew members emerged, curious. One of them, an assistant director named Holly, approached with a grin. "So this is the dog we heard so much about?" she asked, offering Rocky the back of her hand to sniff. "He's perfect, calm, attentive." Keanu chuckled, a hint of pride creeping in. They said he was too friendly for police work, but it turns out that's a plus here. The dog angled his head, seemingly eavesdropping on their conversation. "You think he'd be okay with a small cameo?" Holly nodded. "We could do a quick test. If he's comfortable around the camera, maybe we'll incorporate him. Even just a couple of scenes as the friendly neighborhood dog." She stepped away, returning with a small portable camera. "Want to see how he reacts?" Holding the camera near Rocky's face, she turned it on. The shepherd sniffed its lens, nose printing a little smudge. Everyone laughed. Rocky, oblivious to the comedic moment, just wagged his tail. "I think that's a yes," Holly announced. In that instant, Keanu realized how naturally Rocky fit this environment. No tension, no fear, just curiosity and a longing to connect. It echoed the same reason he'd been rejected from the K-9 program, ironically shaping him into the perfect on-set companion. "Yeah," Keanu murmured, patting Rocky's side. "Let's do it. Let's see if he wants to be a star." Rocky responded by rising onto hind legs, front paws seeking a hug, as though reading Keanu's excitement. Laughter rippled through the handful of onlookers. In the quiet of that moment, it became clear that sometimes the qualities that disqualify us from one path might lead us to success on another. For Rocky, that path now beckoned from behind the scenes of a film set, his kind nature shining like a second chance. Filming commenced on a bright Monday, the studio abuzz with cables, spotlights, and endless coffee cups in crew hands. Despite the chaotic swirl of last-minute changes, one presence remained consistently soothing. Rocky, wearing a simple harness, trotting alongside Keanu Reeves. At first, the dog stuck close to Keanu, nose occasionally bumping his leg as if to ask, "Am I doing okay?" The production team quickly fell in love with him. Even those who were typically stoic under film set pressures found themselves pausing to scratch behind Rocky's ears. In the break room, a burly gaffer named Leon joked that the dog gave him more comfort than any lunch break. "We've got therapy dogs now," he teased. "Sign me up." Chuckles followed. The tension of looming deadlines melted around Rocky's wagging tail. The cameo itself was modest. In a particular scene, Keanu's character strolls through a quiet neighborhood, running into a friendly stray dog that becomes a small but pivotal emotional anchor in the story. For the first take, the director, Jade Parker, unrelated to Officer Parker, ironically, guided Keanu on how the dog should approach on camera. "We want that spontaneous moment when he sees you, and you guys just connect," Jade explained. Keanu nodded, eyeing Rocky. "So basically real life," he quipped. Jade smiled, stepping back. Cameras rolled. Rocky, cued by a subtle hand signal from an animal handler, ambled forward. But instead of a stiff, choreographed approach, He did what he always did, wagged his tail, trotted right up to Keanu, and nuzzled his leg with quiet affection. The camera operator whispered, "That's gold," enthralled by the authenticity. When Jade yelled cut, a smatter of applause erupted from the small crowd. The take was perfect, no retakes needed. Jade clapped her hands. "He's better at hitting marks than half the extras in town," she joked, inciting more laughter. Meanwhile, Rocky simply blinked, uncertain of the excitement, but thrilled by the positive energy swirling around. Between shots, as lights and sets rearranged, Keanu found himself quietly reflecting on how far the dog had come. He recalled that day at the police training yard, hearing rumors of a too-friendly dog who simply didn't fit. Now, that same attribute that once disqualified Rocky from official duty had turned him into a beloved presence in an entirely different world. It underscored a universal truth. Sometimes, strengths can look like weaknesses in the wrong environment. With filming near completion for the day, Jade asked if they could try another quick shot, just a short montage where Rocky runs across the yard to greet Keanu's character. The dog's main job appeared genuinely thrilled. "That's basically his default setting," Keanu joked, giving Rocky a playful pat on the head. "We're good to go." This time, they had a minor glitch. A cable spool inadvertently rattled across the set, startling Rocky mid-run. He veered off course, skidding to a halt. "Cut," Jade said, stepping forward to reassure the dog. No one scolded him. Instead, they recognized the unusual noise might spook any dog. Keanu knelt down, calming Rocky. Within minutes, they retried the shot, and Rocky aced it, bounding joyfully into Keanu's arms. "Well done." Jade beamed. That evening, the daily rush of filming concluded. Sore-footed crew members gave Rocky farewells, each seeming to relish a pat or tail wag. "You brought us good vibes, fella," said one lighting technician, Aaron, leaning down to let Rocky lick her chin. Keanu stood by, heart warm at seeing how deeply the dog's simple kindness resonated. In an industry known for high stress, having a gentle dog brightened everyone's day. Exiting the studio, Keanu loaded Rocky into his car. The dog, though slightly tuckered from being the center of attention, sprawled across the back seat with contentment. "You must have made 100 new friends," Keanu teased, "all for being exactly who you are." He turned the ignition, reflecting on how fleeting success can be in show business. Yet for Rocky, none of this was about ambition or vanity. The dog remained pure in his intentions, greeting each person with unfeigned affection. "Maybe you can teach me something about authenticity," Keanu murmured, half to himself as he maneuvered through traffic. "You never pretend to be someone you're not." They arrived home in the early twilight. While Keanu fixed himself a quick dinner, Rocky ambled to his favorite spot near a wide window. For a moment, the shepherd stared out at the yard, tail flicking in small motions, as though pondering the day's events. Keanu set a dog bowl down. "We both need a meal, buddy," he announced. Rocky promptly left his thoughts behind to munch happily. As the night wore on, Keanu scrolled through messages on his phone. Jade had sent a note praising Rocky's performance, saying it was incredibly natural, like we caught a real moment, not a staged one. The social media chatter also started picking up with hints about Keanu's new dog co-star. Smiling, Keanu scratched Rocky's ears. "They love you out there," he whispered, the dog gazing at him with calm devotion. Within days, the cameo scene footage circulated among the production team, garnering unanimous ahs and wows. Meanwhile, the policeman who once labeled Rocky too friendly was probably entirely unaware that the dog was forging a new identity in the entertainment sphere, where a friendly face was exactly the asset everyone craved. The notion that a dog like Rocky, so genuine in spirit, could become a small star in his own right felt both humorous and deeply satisfying. Keanu's mind drifted to what might come next. The cameo was a short job, but it could open doors for more cameo roles or brand ambassador gigs for a philanthropic cause. Whatever happened, he resolved to keep Rocky's best interests at heart. After all, it was the dog's unstoppable kindness that got him here, and that kindness was worth safeguarding above any fleeting Hollywood novelty. The cameo scene featuring Rocky aired in the film's promotional teasers sooner than anyone anticipated. Almost overnight, social media buzzed with clips of the dog bounding up to Keanu Reeves, tail wagging, as though the two were old pals separated by a lifetime. The internet is a fickle place, but kindness and sincerity have a way of cutting through cynicism. Comments flooded in. "Who's that adorable shepherd with Keanu? That dog is pure sunshine. We need more sweet dogs in movies." The film's producers, eyeing this positive wave, recognized a goldmine for promotional angles. Suddenly, invites to talk shows started arriving, requesting Keanu and Rocky for short segments. Initially, Keanu hesitated. He valued his privacy, and exploiting Rocky's new popularity felt off. But he also recognized an opportunity to highlight animal shelters and the notion that every dog can find a purpose, even if they don't fit the usual mold. So he relented for a small handful of appearances, provided it didn't stress Rocky or overshadow the dog's well-being. One crisp morning, they arrived at a modest daytime show set in a bright, airy studio. The host, Amelia, had prepared a gentle interview focusing on pet adoption stories. Stagehands fussed over the dog, ensuring Rocky had water and a quiet spot to relax. When the show went live, the camera panned to Keanu sitting on a comfortable couch, Rocky at his feet, resting his chin on Keanu's shoe in content affection. Amelia introduced them, her smile radiant. "We've seen many animals who overcame adversity, but I've never heard of a dog dismissed from the police for being too friendly, only to become a beloved star. Keanu, how did it all happen?" Keanu patted Rocky's head, explaining in calm, measured words how the dog was let go from a canine training program because he was too affectionate, and how they met at a shelter event. "He's been the best companion," Keanu continued, voice warm. "I think we can all do with a little more unconditional love." The audience cooed. Amelia leaned forward, placing a gentle hand near Rocky, who licked her fingertips. "Ah, he truly is sweet." She laughed lightly. "So how is he handling all this newfound fame?" Keanu's lips curved in a wry grin. "Rocky doesn't really grasp fame. He just likes meeting people and making them happy. He's content to do that in a tiny apartment or on a red carpet. The place doesn't matter. It's the people." After a short demonstration, where Rocky performed a simple handshake trick, the segment wrapped with a call to support local shelters. The studio applauded, cameras panned away, and the dog wagged his tail as though he'd just finished a casual walk rather than a TV appearance. Producers rushed in to snap photos, while a few staffers traded phone numbers of local shelters, hoping to adopt a dog of their own. Keanu's heart swelled at the sight, realizing Rocky's presence was directly inspiring real adoptions. "Who'd have guessed?" he murmured, giving the dog an extra pat. In the following weeks, the synergy continued. Whenever Keanu had a public event, the question emerged, will Rocky be there? Meanwhile, a children's charity approached them, inviting them to an outreach day at a local hospital. The idea was simple. Let the kids meet this famously gentle dog, possibly brightening their day. Keanu agreed without a second thought, seeing it as a natural extension of Rocky's unstoppable kindness. The hospital visit turned out to be one of the most moving experiences of Keanu's life. Children in hospital gowns, some hooked to 4 drips, smiled like they'd won the lottery when Rocky padded into their rooms. Without a hint of fear, Rocky hopped onto a child's bed at her timid invitation, nestling close enough for a cuddle. Another child giggled uncontrollably as Rocky gently licked his outstretched hand. Nurses and doctors paused in the hall, touched by the scenes of pure affection. "He's a therapy dog at heart," one nurse whispered to Keanu. "He's got that magical touch." It dawned on Keanu that every reason Rocky was rejected from the police force was precisely the reason he was thriving in this new, gentler realm. All the traits they said made him unsuitable are the very ones changing lives. Keanu remarked to a caretaker, tears subtly gleaming in his eyes. The caretaker smiled, nodding. "Isn't that the way life works sometimes?" Late that evening, as Keanu returned home, dog-tired but soul-enriched, he let Rocky out into the backyard. Beneath a sky freckled with stars, the dog sniffed the grass, then came bounding back, nuzzling Keanu's hand. "Had enough adventures for one day, buddy?" Keanu teased. The shepherd responded with a low bark, tail swish, and a look that hinted, "I'm always ready for more." In a moment of quiet reflection, Keanu gazed at the dog who once was labeled useless, too soft, or incapable. Yet here he stood, the epicenter of hope and happiness for many. "Your kindness was never a flaw," Keanu whispered. "They just didn't know what to do with it." The dog leaned against his leg, eyes brimming with trust. Indeed, the cosmic puzzle pieces had fallen into place. Rocky had discovered a calling more impactful than chasing criminals. He was chasing hearts, lighting up corners of the world with unconditional, wagging love. Rocky's story isn't just about a dog who flunked out of police training. It's about the hidden strengths that can shine when given the right environment. Branded as too friendly and unfit for duty, Rocky might have vanished into obscurity if not for an unexpected twist of fate. Meeting Keanu Reeves opened the door to a realm where kindness isn't a liability but a superpower. On film sets, in hospital corridors, and in everyday encounters where a wagging tail can ease anxieties no human words can dispel. Once relegated to a shelter kennel, Rocky has become a beacon of soft-hearted acceptance, illustrating how the very traits that led to one rejection can become the bedrock of success in another sphere. He's shown that it isn't about failing or passing a single test. It's about discovering a place and purpose aligned with who you inherently are. In Rocky's world, greeting others with unbridled joy is not a flaw. It's his gift, a gift that resonates with children seeking a moment of comfort or jaded adults rediscovering hope in a dog's unwavering devotion. Through all the applause, cameo opportunities, and hospital visits, Rocky remains as he's always been, a dog whose tail wags at the mere prospect of human connection. Keanu, too, has embraced the dog's unstoppable cheer as a reminder that genuine warmth can break through cynicism like nothing else. Their bond underscores a powerful message. Everyone, from an overlooked pup to a Hollywood celebrity, has a place where compassion and authenticity are treasured. So the next time life tells you you're too something, consider Rocky's tale. Maybe you're not too anything. Maybe you're just in the wrong setting, waiting for the right door to open. Let that gentle German shepherd's journey assure you that an act of kindness, no matter how small, can lead to an unexpected and far more meaningful role.